And welcome back. With us right now is Janie Durrell, and you certainly know her. She is on the board with United as one of their directors, and I'd also like to introduce Kurt Weeman. And Kurt is our permits, inspections, and restoration manager. And I understand, sir, you've been here about 3 months, so welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm enjoying my time here.
And of course, Janie, you and I have talked many times, as I have with the other board members, about alterations. And one of the biggest issues with that is try and get across to folks that you need to do things the proper way. And this is something that Kurt's gonna be looking for, right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So Kurt, tell me exactly what your department does. And you know, I know some of the notes that you sent me that attic common areas, which I wasn't even aware of that there were attic common areas, but ceiling fans and changes in the alteration departments.
Well, what our division does is we work sort of like a building department for the building.
Okay.
We process permit applications. In the mutual, they're called mutual consents.
Okay.
And there's a process that we go through. We've just published a pamphlet that is available to members at our alteration window that sort of walks them through the process, that kind of explains the process, each one of the steps that they have to go through to get to it.
Okay. Now, I know that one of the issues that folks have, and I know it's something that your department is going to be working on, is helping to streamline things with permits from the mutual, of course, but permits from the city as well. Often people have to take the time to go to both places, and I know it's been talked about that maybe that could be streamlined a little bit. Is that something you folks are looking at?
Oh, it's exactly one of the things we're working on. We're trying to find a way. We'll be doing alterations to the first floor here in the community center, which alterations will have their own section, their own room, which we're hopefully going to get a employee from the city in-house here a couple of days a week to help process permits for members. To save them the trip down the street.
Yeah, that'll be really nice.
Yes, the process as it is now, you need our consent before you go to the city, and oftentimes the city wants some more information, so residents have to go back and forth, and we're trying to cut down on that. We're trying to make it a one-stop shop for residents when they want to do alterations. All
right, that should speed things along quite a bit, right, Janie?
Absolutely. Will be a big help to our members.
Yeah. You know, I'm going to get back to the part I mentioned, common areas in the attic, and I know that some areas, some units probably have that, others maybe not. So kind of explain that, as I know there are some units that are sort of like 4 or 6 plexes in a way, and they have a flat roof on there, and I didn't even know there was much of an attic in there, or is there?
Some units have bigger attics than others. Okay. Some have areas where you can actually stand up in, and some are not much more than a crawl space.
Okay.
The issue is, back in June, United passed a policy saying no common area can be used. And just recently, over the summer, again, legal counsel has confirmed that attics are legally common area.
Okay.
So what we're getting up to is, common area means that you can't use it for your personal use. So we're not allowing storage up in attics, which has become the issue. A lot of people use their attics for storage. And that's a fire hazard, a structural issue, as well as a legal issue, as it doesn't belong to you.
Okay. Now, on some of those units, Janie, do they each have like an access to the attic, you know, a little panel as most homes?
Excuse me, there is an access. And so people have taken advantage of that, not really understanding our policy, and they have used it for storage. They'll put a hot water heater up there, and that's a real hazard because that hot water heater could leak and cause a lot of damage. They've also put air conditioning units up there, you know, in their attic, and it's a structural problem. So the board will not allow that. That's part of our policy for our common area.
Okay.
You can go ahead and put skylights. You can put the solar tube.
Okay.
And that's just about it, isn't it, Kurt?
We currently do allow air conditioners. We're revisiting that policy because of the leak issue. We've had a lot of leaks from air conditioners, and because it's above the ceiling, the water tends to travel to other units. So we're looking into that issue to try to cut down on the costs and the inconvenience to people when there's leaks.
Okay.
But I do want to, Janie did say that people could put solar tubes and skylights. I want to remind people they need a mutual consent to do
Yes.
that. They need permission to do that. They can't just come and put one in.
Okay, let me ask you a question. The common areas in the attic, are they partitioned off? Like if somebody were to stick their head up there, could they see all the way across to the top of the other units? Or is there a physical partitioned wall, or is it just simply trusses that are up there?
Most of them, it's just trusses.
Okay,
There's a few that have barrier walls up there, but not many.
okay, so obviously I can see the concern then, the potential for problems if there was a fire or something like that. On the other hand, you know, Janie, you brought up a very good point about people using for storage. I guess if they didn't know, they would just think, well, that's my attic. Where I used to live in my home, we put stuff up there. It's kind of a common thing to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, with the limited storage there are in some of the units, I can see the temptation.
Yeah, but again, this is something that people have to look into. And now you mentioned the heating units and air conditioning units, and I'm certainly aware of heating units that are in attics. I didn't know there were air conditioning units.
There are, well, they're the air handler units
Okay.
with the blower and the coils.
Okay.
The actual condenser would have to be outside.
Okay, all right, that I understand then. So again, if someone is looking to do something up there, whatever it might be allowed, it may not, they have to get with the permits department. They have to find out, is this an alteration? Is it something that's a variance? Is it okay to do? And even if it is okay to do, they have to go through the proper channels, right, Janie?
They can just come into property services and they can help them as far as what the policy is and what they can and cannot do up in the attic.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And it's kind of interesting you bring this up because this is the first time I have heard of that common area in the attic. Again, most people wouldn't even think of that.
Yeah.
All right, the CC&Rs are clear. They define your unit as the insides of the walls.
Yeah.
So if it's above your wall, above your ceiling, it's common area.
Yeah.
And that applies to
That
crawl
makes
spaces
sense.
too on some of the units that
Oh,
are on
okay.
hills that have the access to
Okay.
the side. That's also common area.
Okay, so again, that's not an area people are allowed to store things in.
Correct.
Yeah, that's the crawl spaces, especially if you have a unit like a Casa Linda on a hill. There's
Yeah.
a big area for the crawl space there. Some people do, you know, through permits and all, can put their hot water heater and their air conditioning unit out in that area.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, it's something that I want to bring up because I know you've talked about this, and you are on the Architectural Control and Standards Committee, so this falls under your jurisdiction, so to speak. But when people do want to add an air conditioning unit or something, sometimes they decide maybe they have an old one, and of course the newer ones might be a little bit bigger, more efficient, whatever it might be, and they have to get permission from that as well because it
You
may
have to
not
have
be
a
in the same
permit,
footprint,
you
right?
know, and approval from our property services department through permits and also the city.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, you know, that's something that 2 years ago, whenever it was, that we went through. We replaced a unit. It's actually smaller because they're so much more efficient, but it was exactly where it was, and we had to go through actually the company that did it for us. But you still need those permits, even though you are simply replacing one thing with something else, and that you still have to go through that, right, Kurt?
Correct, both through our division and the city, especially if it involves electrical, then it definitely needs a city permit. But
Okay.
we want to remind people that if you're unsure whether an alteration needs a permit or not, give us a call. We'll be happy to help you out.
Okay, and you're happy to go out there, and if somebody says, you know, this is something I want to do, and maybe they bring you the paperwork, but they want to go, can you come out and somebody from your department come out and look at it and even see if it's okay to start? I mean, you look at everything, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, we do. And you brought up the changes we're doing to the alterations department. Starting in the first quarter of next year, we're going to offer appointments for
Yeah.
people to come in to sit down and meet with one of our inspectors and go over their project to see what limits they can do and what they can't do. And once the alterations are in the first floor here are complete, they'll be available on a daily basis. Right now we're space limited, but we're going to start accomplishing those.
Okay, and you know, again, they're here to help you, just like, you know, the city is too, or wherever you lived before. If, you know, years ago you might have needed something done, you had to go to the city. It's really helpful because often the advice and information that is given is really very, very valuable, and things that you may not have thought of, they're going to turn around and go, well, you know, this is how it should be done, and maybe you could even save money. You certainly will save money if you get it done properly the first time, right, Janie?
Absolutely. Don't do anything without a permit.
Yeah.
It's very costly in the long run.
It is. Now, are there certain things, Kurt, that can be done that are considered permitted items? I mean, things that are yeah, thank you for the word, the standard items. Do they need permits for that, certain types of windows?
I'm going to answer that,
Yeah,
because
thank
that's
you.
part of what our committee does, and we're
Yeah.
trying to standardize a lot of items. We just approved, it's going to the board for approval
Okay.
on split bathrooms. So when you split a bathroom, we're going to have,
okay.
most of it's going to be standardized, windows are standardized. So there are a lot of things that the committee, along with Kurt and his staff, are standardizing it, making
Okay.
it a little bit easier when people come to the window. They don't have to come to the committee,
Okay.
which makes it a lot easier, a lot faster for them, and it's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to make it a lot simpler for our members for
Okay.
alterations.
But some of those standardized, like the bathrooms you talked about, you would still need at least a city permit, right?
No, you would still need a permit from
Yeah.
both us
Okay.
and the city.
Even though it's standardized.
Right,
yeah.
on the website is a list of the standards. The difference between a standard and a non-standard item is where Janie's committee comes in.
Okay.
If it's listed under standard, you do need a permit.
Okay.
The only things you really don't need a permit for are minor items like flooring, shelving, things like that. Anything over and above a minor aesthetic fix inside your unit needs a permit.
Okay.
Electrical and plumbing, if it's $500 or more, you need a professional contractor.
Okay.
And be sure and have a permit.
Okay. What about, I know with United, if somebody decides to, I know they can do this, but upgrade their range, their refrigerator, those type of things, from the ones that are provided by United, and they decide, you know what, we're not going to remodel our kitchen, but we want to go to this level of a range. Do they do that by going to your window, Kurt, or how do they go about doing that? Just calling customer service? What's the first step in that? Because I know a lot of people like to do that.
It's a two-step process. One, they do come to us to get the permit to change out the unit, and then they also need to go through resident services to return the unit that they have
Okay.
and get credit for it.
Okay, and then at the back end, if they sell that unit, that's something they have to deal with then as well.
That's an upgraded unit.
Yeah.
And Property Services is no longer responsible for that particular appliance.
Okay, and the new people moving in have to
And they take
understand that.
responsibility of that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all explained to them in escrow.
All right,
I know.
very good. Well, Kurt, it's been a pleasure meeting you.
It's been a pleasure being here.
Very interesting topic, Janie, because again, the whole point here is making things easier for people and letting them know that a lot of these things can be done, but you got to do it the right steps in the right way. Otherwise, it's just going to cause you some headaches. We don't want that.
A lot of headaches.
A lot of headaches, yes. We do not want that.
No.
Good to see you, Janie.
Oh,
I know
good
we'll
to
see you
see you.
again
Thank
soon.
you.
And Kurt, hope to see you again soon.
Okay,
Nice meeting you, and thank you for the information.
you're welcome.
We appreciate
Great.
it.
Thank
All right,
you.
We'll be right back.